what's up? I believe it was yesterday, but I posted a comment thing on my YouTube channel saying drop NBA questions, hot takes, and topics for a video tomorrow. It's tomorrow. We're recording the video now. We're going to roll through some of these comments. I have 18 comments and a couple of them are replies, but we have a decent amount of stuff to discuss. So I'm going to try and cover as much of that as possible for you guys. If you like this type of video and you want me to respond to more of your guys' comments and stuff like that, I can do another one of these. Just let me know in the comments below if you would like me to post another poll or whatever it's called, a community, I don't know what it's called, but I can post another one for you guys and we can do this again. I want to knock out a couple of easier ones that won't take a long time to talk about. I think the first one I see that I can knock out pretty fast, you guys should be able to see it on the screen right now. It is from Kim Bros. Luka is already better than Dirk all time. I mean, I feel like it's not even a discussion. Luka is not better than Dirk all time. Let's just put that out there. It's not really even that close right now. I don't think it's a bold prediction to say that Luka will be better than Dirk, especially when it comes to Dallas Mavericks history, if Luka is able to bring another championship to Dallas. I think the big thing about being the best player in an organization or the greatest player in an organization's history has to be how many championships have you won for that organization. That's a huge one, obviously, because that's what everybody really cares about at the end of the day is championships. And if you're an organization that has never won a championship before, if you have a player that goes out there and wins a championship for that organization, that player then becomes the pinnacle, like that finals MVP, all-time great player that ends up and brings a championship to an organization that hasn't won a championship before, usually goes down as the greatest player of all time for that organization. Obviously, Dirk being the greatest Maverick of all time, LeBron being the greatest Cavalier of all time, even though LeBron is considered the greatest player of all time. He's top 2, top 3, whatever, or number 1, whatever your opinion is on that. Either way, those types of players go down as the greatest player in that organization's history because they were able to bring that first championship to that organization. This isn't always the case, obviously. I mean, Kawhi Leonard wins a championship in 2019 for the Raptors for their first ever championship. He's not considered the greatest Raptor of all time. In my opinion, it is probably Vince Carter. Kyle Lowry maybe up there as well, maybe number 1. So he isn't the greatest, even though he was the best player, the finals MVP on that team. That's an anomaly. He was there for one season. He did not have enough time to create that narrative for himself. Going off on a tangent there, Luka is already better than Dirk all time. It's not a true statement. Dirk is what, 6th now all time, 6th or 7th all time in scoring. He's probably a top 3 power forward for sure. Could be number 2, who knows. Tim Duncan is easily number 1. He is the greatest Maverick in Mavericks history. There's only been one championship in Dallas Mavericks organization history, and that is the 2011 ring against the Miami Heat that Dirk was able to bring home and win finals MVP for the city of Dallas. With that being said, Dirk is better than Luka all time, and he's a better Dallas Maverick than Luka. But Luka could very easily pass Dirk, and I don't think any single basketball enthusiast out there could argue that Luka has the potential to pass Dirk. So Kimbro, I appreciate your comment. I see a couple of Joel Embiid comments on here that I would like to address to start off with. So shout out to Suvav. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. I'm very sorry. I appreciate your comment. You should be able to see the comment on the screen. And then also Zydix or however you pronounce that. Everybody should be able to see those comments now. We will start with Embiid is a top 5 player in the league, and we're going to go based on today. So as of right now, Joel Embiid is leading the league in scoring at about 34 something points per game. He's the best defensive player on a top, I believe they're top 5, if not top 3 best defensive teams in the league. Don't quote me on that, but I think that is correct or in that area. Either way, he is playing out of his mind, once again having an MVP caliber season. He's been able to do that the last couple seasons as well. Top 5 player though, let's break it down. Giannis, Jokic, Luka, in that order for me probably. Next, these next 3 or 4 are a complete toss-up. I'm going to go with Jayson Tatum, Kevin Durant, or Joel Embiid flip-flop him and then Steph Curry, or flip-flop him, then Steph Curry. Steph Curry was starting off with an MVP season, by the way. His injuries, the Warriors not being very good this year, or at least subpar, that has a lot to do with where you would rank Steph Curry, because if you look back at every single team or every single person that I listed, Giannis, the face of the Bucks, who are a top 3 seed, Jokic, they're the 1st seed, I think, currently. They're absolutely destroying the league. Best player on the 1st seed in the West. Luka is an exception in my opinion, because if you take Luka off that team, they're currently sitting around 4th, 5th, 6th in the West. Take Luka off that team is almost last in the league, last in the West at least. So I think Luka has to be up there. We all know what he's capable of, and I think you can't really argue him being outside the top 5. Maybe lower than 3 though. Next is Jayson Tatum, number 1 or 2 seed in the East. He's the best player on that team. You obviously have to put him up there. And then from there, it's between Curry and Embiid. And if we're going off of what I've been describing right now, which is how good your team is doing and you're the best player on that team, it's probably going to go, KD, Embiid, Curry, or it's Embiid, KD, Curry. Either way, Embiid is probably sitting on that 6 to 5. So to answer your question, I rambled on a lot there. Embiid is a top 5 player. In my opinion, it's very arguable. You could have him at 6, you could have him at 5, you could have him at higher. Obviously, I'm going to solidify him at 6 in my rankings very roughly, and I'll go with that. KD is just above him, in my opinion. KD is having, in all honesty, one of his better years in his career. He's looking fantastic, and the Nets are rolling, man. Shout out to Kyrie as well. Kyrie has been getting so much hate. Shout out to Kyrie. He is also hooping. Embiid is the second best center, or Embiid is the best center in the league. I just don't believe that at all. You have Jokic, who has won back-to-back MVPs. He is the best player on the best team in the NBA and the Western Conference, on pace to win a 3rd straight MVP. They're looking like the favorites to at least make the conference finals, correct? If not the NBA finals. I just can't agree with the narrative that Embiid is better than Jokic. I have to say Jokic is better than Embiid. It's very close, though, because what Embiid does, if Jokic wasn't in the league, Embiid would just be such a dominant number 1 center in the league that we'd be looking at him as an all-time great. But Jokic is completely shadowing what Embiid is doing, because Jokic's greatness is on a different level that we haven't seen from a center in quite a while, to be honest. That's the way that falls for me. Embiid sits at about 6th in the top 5, top 10 or whatever, and then Embiid is also, I think, the 2nd best center in the league. Here we have Bryson Scott. Shout out to your comment. Jayson Tatum is better than Luka Doncic. I see you have a Jaylen Brown profile picture here, so maybe a little bit of bias, but it honestly is very close. You replied to my comment that I said, ooh, bold. You said it is really close, though, and I honestly think it is very close. Jayson Tatum, the thing that he has about him that could give him the edge over Luka Doncic is the fact that he is such a monster on the defensive end. He puts in the effort, the hustle. He's skilled on both ends of the court. And that is something that is just so valuable in the NBA today, especially when you're going for a championship. If you don't have a top at least 10 defense, 10 offense, you're probably not going to win a championship in this league. And the Dallas Mavericks, what is their defensive ranking? As you guys should be able to see here, Dallas is at 13, which is really good, but Boston is at number 1, and Jayson Tatum is the guy there, the best defender there. It looks like they are the best team in the NBA. I said it was Denver Nuggets, but it's obviously very, very, very close. Boston is a number 1 defensive team, and I'm assuming they're also a number 1 or 2 or 3 or top 5 offensive team in the NBA. But to my surprise, Dallas tied at 13 there with how many people? 5, 6 people there, or 6 teams, 5 teams. Dallas has a pretty solid defensive team, but Luka is not the anchor for that defense. It usually comes from, some stronger-minded defensive players who aren't worried about offense, such as a Dorian Finney-Smith, such as a Dwight Powell, those kind of guys, a JaVale McGee. I think that Jayson Tatum has Luka well beat on the defensive end. Now, on the offensive end, Luka is just a generational offensive talent that we have not seen in so long. He is on levels of when Kevin Durant came into the league and was just lighting the league up, that kind of thing, but almost even better. Like, we almost haven't even seen something as amazing as what we see from Luka Doncic. I mean, he has a 60-point triple-double this year, the first one ever. He had 20 rebounds in that game as well. Luka is a different animal. You take Jayson Tatum off the Boston Celtics are still a playoff team. You take Luka Doncic off the Dallas Mavericks, the Dallas Mavericks are not a playoff team. I think that's enough to say that I would give the edge to Luka Doncic. I believe I did when I ranked my top 5 or 7 players or whatever I did a little bit ago. I think I gave the edge to Luka Doncic, but Jayson Tatum is right there. I think I ranked him 3-4. And that's how it is, and you can argue both ways, but in my opinion, I think Luka is better than Jayson Tatum. That does not mean that can change by the end of the year. That could change next year or the years previous or at the end of their careers. Hopefully that answers that question from my perspective. Next, D-Book better than DeMar DeRozan. I don't think this is very, very much of a hot topic or a hard topic to debate at all. I get a lot of scrutiny on my TikTok whenever I choose Zach LaVine over DeMar DeRozan, and a lot of people believe that DeMar is better than Zach, and rightfully so, he probably is. But in my head, it is so hard to decide that DeMar DeRozan is a better basketball player than Zach LaVine, because Zach LaVine's bag insanely deep. He's a better shooter in general. You can argue DeMar, is one of the greatest mid-range shooters of all time. He's currently probably the best mid-range shooter in the league. It's a three-point shooting league. I would rather have Zach LaVine for the most part. I don't think either of their defense is so much better than the others that you could just be like, oh, well, Zach has a deeper bag, better three-point shooting, and better defense. I'm taking Zach. Or DeMar can get his own whenever he wants. The best mid-range in the game, one of the best of all time from the mid-range, better defender, that kind of thing. Defense doesn't help either of them out. They're pretty similar when it comes to defense, and it's not even that great. With that being said, I still personally believe that I'm taking LaVine over DeMar, and I'm taking Booker over LaVine. I think Booker is the better basketball player. Devin Booker has the mid-range that DeMar has, maybe not on DeMar's level, but he's still one of the best mid-range jump shooters in the league right now. I also think that it's facts. Devin Booker is just a better three-point shooter than DeMar DeRozan. I think he's a just better natural scorer almost than DeMar DeRozan. I mean, that could be a hot topic or whatever you want to call it, a hot take. I don't think it really is, to be honest. When it goes to playmaking, I mean, DeMar really stepped himself up during his time in San Antonio. He came to Chicago. Maybe he doesn't need to play make as much. He has Lonzo Ball. He has a lot of other guards, Ayo Dosunmu, Alex Caruso, Kobe White. You have these players to facilitate for you. You have Zach LaVine, who can also do that pretty decently. But I think Booker's also a better playmaker in general. The edge for me goes to Devin Booker over DeMar DeRozan, and I don't believe that it's really that much of an argument in general. I think that Booker is just hands down the better player over DeMar DeRozan. This one, I love this one. Okay, so I'm going to be reading it. I waited a little bit to get into this one because this is one I really wanted to break down. I didn't even read it until I'm reading it now. Shout out to Jace for the comment. I'm very excited to dive into this. Hot take: Kawhi Leonard is overrated. He's a great player, but not a superstar like people acknowledge him as. He's more in the Paul George, Jimmy Butler tier, not in the LeBron KD tier. He choked at the end of Game 6 in 2013 NBA Finals at the free throw line, and his first Finals MVP the following year was an Iggy type of award. LeBron still averaged 28, 8, and 4 that series despite Kawhi guarding him, and Kawhi wasn't even the best player on his team. 2019, he got lucky to win the NBA Finals with Toronto. He played amazing in that playoff run, but if Golden State was healthy, he wouldn't have won his second ring/Finals MVP. He blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. And to top it all off, over the past few seasons, the man can't stay healthy. I love it because I'm a huge Pistons fan, and the Golden State Warriors are my number 2. I just love watching their brand of basketball. So obviously I root for them when they get to the NBA Finals. 2019 Finals was one of my favorites all time to watch. And I mean, I have been watching basketball that I can remember since 2004 when the Pistons won their championship. That is around the first time I remember watching basketball, and I've been watching it regularly ever since. The 2019 NBA Finals was by far my favorite, one of my favorites to watch of all time. strictly based on that Kawhi Leonard run. What he did to beat that 76ers team pretty much single-handedly almost. I mean, the game winner at the end was the icing on the cake. His run to win that championship has to be one of the greatest runs of all time. It is my favorite run of all time, probably. Don't hold me to that. So this is a tough one for me because I genuinely think Kawhi Leonard is an amazing player when he is healthy, and that's the thing. You can be overrated because you can't stay healthy. What a lot of people do say, you know, the best skill or asset or whatever is health. If you're not available, how much are you really worth? It's an Anthony Davis thing. If Anthony Davis would have played the last 20 games on the streak that LeBron James is going on, the Lakers have 5 to 10 more wins possibly. Or at least they're in games and have a chance to pull it out at the end of the game. Anyways, let's break this down a little bit more. He's a great player, but not a superstar like people acknowledge him as. He's more in the PG to Jimmy Butler tier, but not the LeBron to KD tier. Let's stop there and break that part down first. In my opinion, he is better than Paul George. He is better than Jimmy Butler. I think he's above that tier. I wouldn't put him in the LeBron and KD tier right now. I think after 2019, yeah, he's in that tier. I think that season, coming off that season, he is in that tier for sure. I don't think there's a question about it. As of right now, I think that the way that his career has gone since he has went to the Los Angeles Clippers, he is not in that tier, and a lot of it has to do with injuries and just not being available. Currently, he's starting to ramp it up a lot, though, and he's looking much better. He's looking efficient. Defense is still there. The athleticism is still there. The scoring ability is still there. He is looking very good. So I would say, yeah, currently, he's not in a LeBron KD tier. And if you're talking all-time, he's definitely above a Jimmy and a Paul George. And I don't think he's on a LeBron KD tier. He may even be closer to a KD tier than a LeBron tier. LeBron's on a tier of his own all time. But if you're talking right now, he's not on the LeBron KD upper echelon of players, but I think he is above the Paul George, Jimmy Butler players. He choked at the end of Game 6 of the 2013 NBA Finals at the free throw line. I don't know how much you can weigh one moment like that on a player's career to call him overrated. I mean, go through the history of the NBA, so many players choke. I mean, it's not even like it's that uncommon of a thing. I mean, people have called LeBron James a choke artist his whole career and said he's not clutch. He's clutch. Kawhi Leonard, we know, is a very clutch player. Sure, he choked one game away in a finals that they probably should have won or could have won. It happens to the best of them. And especially 2013, he was drafted in 11, second year in the league. You're putting him on a pedestal with LeBron James. LeBron wasn't even in the finals in his second year. That's like saying LeBron choked away the 2009 finals, but not quite to that extent. LeBron was the only player on that team. Kawhi Leonard is not the only player on that team. He's not the best player on that team, but still, you're trying to compare a second-year player, calling him a choke artist in the Game 6 of the biggest moment of his life. It's a heavy one, so I mean, you can wrestle with that one as much as you want. Sure, he choked it away. You can't argue that, but I mean, the dude was, 22, 23, like second year in the league, not as much experience as he has now, obviously. Call it what you want. I don't think that's much of an argument to make against Kawhi or to make for him being overrated. His first Finals MVP the following year was an Iggy type award. You guys can see on the screen here, I do want to just break this down and take a look at how well Kawhi did against he couldn't stop LeBron James. I feel like that's just kind of a bogus argument. The Iggy one probably more bogus than the Kawhi Leonard Finals MVP. I don't believe that Kawhi robbed anybody from a Finals MVP like Iggy probably robbed Steph from his Finals MVP in 2015. LeBron still averaged 28, 8, and 4 despite Kawhi guarding him, and Kawhi wasn't even the best player on his team. Kawhi, low-key, probably could have been the best player on his team in his second year in the league. There's a pretty decent chance. I mean, at that point, Tim Duncan retires 2 years. So who's the best player on that team? Is it Tony Parker? Maybe. So I would pretty much say that the 2013 NBA Finals choke at the free throw line, I wouldn't call that anything to to say Kawhi Leonard is overrated, in my opinion. I think that's a little bit of a bogus argument. LeBron averaging 28, 8, and 4 despite Kawhi guarding him. I still think that's a little bit of a bogus argument because 28, 8, and 4 is low for LeBron James in a finals. I mean, if you look at what he averages in the finals, he has had better finals appearances than this one, and that is a fact. So I wouldn't say that Kawhi's finals MVP is necessarily an Iggy type of award. I mean, Iggy didn't play nearly as well as Kawhi probably did in that series. LeBron still averaged 28 and 4. I mean, what does LeBron normally average in the finals? LeBron in 55 games played averages 28.4, 10 rebounds, and about 8 assists per game. If you ask me, Kawhi shut him down to less than average on his rebounds and assists in that series. That's 2 out of the 3 stats. 28 and 4. I mean, he held him to his average, and LeBron has had better series where he's averaged more than 28. So I'm saying that Kawhi did a pretty solid job. I don't think I can hold that against him at all. Anyways, let's move on. He got lucky to win that finals in 2019 with Toronto. He played amazing in that playoff run, but if Golden State was healthy, he wouldn't have his second ring/finals MVP. That team is one of the greatest teams ever assembled. That team, yeah, you're right. He got very lucky. If Klay and KD don't go down, that series is over in 5 probably. 4 maybe. I mean, that team was insane. I mean, you can call him lucky for winning it. He still won it, though. He still won the finals and the finals MVP. And like you said, that run was amazing to get to the finals. That alone was amazing. When you look back at that's one of the greatest finals runs of all time to get to your destination, which is the NBA Finals. He got lucky, yeah. He's also going up again against an all-time great team. He is successful against these all-time teams, all-time players, and your only jab at him is that he got lucky or didn't deserve these things against all-time teams and players. You can't take away from doing stuff like that. I mean, if anything, you give him a pass if he loses these things, right? I just don't believe that is something that you can really nitpick Kawhi Leonard for. And lastly, on top of that, he blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. Steph Curry has blown a 3-1 lead in his career. Kevin Durant has blown a 3-1 lead in his career. It sucks, yeah. You definitely can hold it on him for sure. But it's not like it's never been done. People do it. It happens. That one might be a viable one to hold over him. Top of it, the past few seasons, man can't stay healthy. That is the biggest argument against him. And yeah, I mean, that probably does make him overrated at this point. His health probably does make him overrated at this point. But that's even questionable because it's Kawhi Leonard. Either way, Jace, I appreciate your comment. I hope I went into detail a little bit more. I'm glad you commented this because I really love talking about that Kawhi run. And remember, this is all opinion based. This is all 100% my opinion. So if you don't agree with me, that is perfectly fine. We're both basketball fans that have opposite opinions of each other, and that is perfectly cool. And that's what is great about doing a video like this and having comments like this, is because we get the chance to discuss with each other these topics. With that being said, Kawhi is overrated. I don't think he is. I do not believe that Kawhi Leonard is overrated. Maybe in the last season or two or whatever, based off of his health. But he has a lot of amazing accomplishments. He has a ton of amazing accomplishments. I mean, he also has 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards to his name. He's a defensive monster, an offensive monster. He's a legend. He's an all-time player. Overrated, not in my opinion, maybe in the last season or 2. But I appreciate your comment. So hopefully you guys enjoy this longer video. I'm assuming it will be longer. If you like this style and you want me to do more of this kind of answering your guys' comments kind of thing, drop comments on the video and let me know. With that being said, and thank you guys all so much for the comments and helping me make this video. I appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.